Move on to our first panel, which is on AI and emerging technologies for enhanced IP enforcement. So this panel will explore how AI, cutting-edge technologies, and monitoring tools can enhance IP rights enforcement. We're going to focus on how the current legislative frameworks, as well as voluntary commitments, can ensure these solutions are used responsibly and transparently, balancing enforcement, innovation, and business interests. So I'd like to introduce you now to our panelists who can come take a seat here on the stage next to your name tags. We have here with us Gael Grooby, who is Acting Director for Tariff and Trade Affairs at the World Customs Organization. José Ignacio Carrillo de Albornoz, Global Content Protection Manager at La Liga. Cristina Berra, Director of Global Relations and Brand Protection at Corsearch. And Felix Avellan, Coordinator of IP Crime and Digital Piracy at the International Criminal Police Organization, INTERPOL. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me here on the stage. Before we get started, I want to put a question to you in the audience. We're going to kick in Slido for our first Slido poll question of the day. So let's see if we can get that QR code up on the screen. Yes, so if you scan that QR code up on the top left, that'll take you into Slido. That's what we'll be using for the rest of the day. So the first question that I'd like to ask you all is, looking ahead, what new technologies beyond AI could further revolutionize IP infringements and enforcement in the next 5 to 10 years? So go ahead and put your answers in. I'm going to check back in to see what you said after the panel, and we'll see which answers, it's a word cloud type situation, so we'll see which answers came up the most when you were answering. Okay, so let's move on to the panel. José Ignacio, I'm going to start with a question for you from La Liga. How do you see emerging technologies and AI as a tool to create new opportunities for protecting content? We heard before some people think that AI might provide risks. What are some of the possible opportunities?
Yeah, thank you. So from La Liga perspective, we truly see AI as an ally, as a partner. Right now, there are many processes where AI is directly involved in La Liga. So, for example, we have a technology that basically creates video posts during our matches, and they are being paused automatically. But where we see that it's really a partner for us, it's on the content protection measures. Because, La Liga, we have created our own anti-piracy and content protection technology. And AI actually has supercharged the different powers that our technology and provides. So basically, our technology is able to recognize the content, and basically it also proves that the content that we are detecting is actually La Liga's content. So the way we are actually doing this is basically by analyzing different elements of an illegal broadcast. We analyze the scoreboard, we analyze the logos, we analyze the ball, we analyze the t-shirts from the players, we analyze the advertisers, we analyze the bumpers that appeals on the broadcast. And that actually allow us to confirm that one particular video that we detect on the internet is actually an illegal broadcast of La Liga. And this has also been proved to be very, very effective as since we implemented that AI in our technology, we never had any false positive, meaning that we never reported and we never saw any particular video that it was actually from another competition or from another property. And of course, it's actually helping us to fight piracy at a very scalable way. All the entire process, all the entire analysis process is done in a matter of seconds, and that's very, very important, taking in consideration the huge amount of infringement that we detect on every weekend. And of course, we are also right now, we are implementing an agent, an AI agent. Basically, it's a chatbot that actually help us to, let's say, deep dive in all the data that we gather and that we create and we produce, and also help us to lead the, let's say, the content protection strategy. So, for example, we are able to ask this chatbot, which is the most pirated team on social media, but only on the second part of a match, okay? So we are able to get that, those answers in a matter of seconds or in a matter of minutes, and also it has been proven to be very, very effective too.
Well, Cristina, so at Corsearch, you've also been doing some of these checks. So can you share some specific examples of how your organization is using AI-driven detection systems on monitoring tools to identify IP infringement?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. And as you mentioned, so at Corsearch, we support brands in their brand protection efforts. So we do have a native AI technology that helps us in the detection and the enforcement of IP infringements online. Here we have an example of our technology. So this is a listing which is can be found online, and this is what our AI sees. So we do automated platform monitoring using AI. Our technologies continuously scans marketplaces, social media, e-commerce sites online to detect fraudulent listings, and with the help of AI, we do it in a, reducing to the minimum any manual intervention. So it's highly scalable and efficient. We use AI for advanced pattern recognition. So if we see any specific trends, so if the AI see any specific trends, could be anomalies or patterns in online listings, it automatically pops up in our detection systems, so that we can more efficiently detect violations, and also we can more efficiently act in a more proactive way. We do use native AI for image and text analysis, and just to get to this example. So if we can say, if the picture in the background was a copyrighted image, for example, of one of a specific brand that we monitor, then our AI would flag this as a potential copyright infringement. And the same as, for example, on the purse, so on the object, on the item, the AI helps scanning the product features. It can be colors, it can be the shapes, and definitely the logo as well. And it can tell us if this specific product could be a replica of an original product, or if the logo could have been manipulated in any way. And then our AI also supports us and supports brands in predictive analysis. So we can forecast potential threats and then maximize and focus our efforts on where it matters the most for brands. So just to give again an example, if our technology, with the help of our technology, if we see a trend of specific infringements operating in a specific geographical area, then the technology can just flag this to us, saying maybe you have to shift focus on that area because we see a high volume, or we see high target sellers in a specific country or continent. So just to give, these were a few examples, but yeah, we do work more and more with AI to shift into a more proactive approach, and this is definitely, as was mentioned by Mr. Negrão and also Mr. Tang, to adapt to emerging threats. We see infringers that they use more and more AI to commit crimes, IP crimes, at a very large scale, and we really need to keep up with these and adapt as well, and develop new technologies for this purpose. So this is what we are doing, and this is the support that we are giving to brands.
So, Gail, we've heard two examples there of brands and search tools using AI to identify potential fraud. So even though there's all this concern that, as you mentioned, Cristina, that AI can be used to generate fakes, it can also be used to detect fakes, right? So from this perspective of the World Customs Organization, what added value would you say AI has in providing or improving risk profiling when detecting goods that infringe on intellectual property rights? What's that added value that it can bring?
Thank you. That's an excellent question, and that's the question I'm facing coming into this role of Director of Standards and Policy in July. But I think with AI, it poses such fundamental threats to IP that it's actually quite ironic, but also absolutely necessary that we use it to be part of the solution. And there's been a lot of talk about the role of customs from our opening speakers. And customs is the front line. We're the first line of defence. We do actually, in the WCO, the World Customs Organization, keep a lot of data on seizures for IPR so that our members have a better idea of changing methods and what's coming through. And if I look at the latest report we're doing for 2024, which covers only about two-thirds of our, just over half, of our members, we had 30,842 IPR-related cases reported to our database of methods. We had 97,806 seizures, and we had the confiscation of about 48,645,797 items of counterfeit goods. For medical goods, we had 8,188 cases, 10,312 seizures, and 148,567,046 items. And as I said, that's from just over half. And these reported cases we have are not the full picture, so we are looking at a massive problem for customs and for trade, for entrepreneurs, for creatives. The problem is massive. Now, if we look at where these are coming in, 72.1% of IPR seizures and 64.7% of medical seizures are coming through e-commerce. And this is where we see the most promising value for AI. Because as has already been spoken about in the opening, e-commerce is a tsunami. We are talking of millions upon millions of parcels moving around the world each day. And these are very small parcels often. And the traditional methods of customs processing and risk detection, when you're facing this level of parcels, is simply no longer sufficient. So we're facing this very real challenge. We see that AI has the potential to increase our ability to better manage the flow of these goods and to do the risk detection. They can process large volumes of transactions far more efficiently and effectively. But our biggest risk is quality of data. Now, we had a wonderful picture up here, which is fantastic, and this is what you can do when you can actually see the goods. What we're mostly facing is brown paper parcels. And when you have these millions of parcels coming in, you don't have the sheer number of people on the ground to open and inspect all parcels. So this is where we're doing our most focus, is looking at how we can improve the data we have coming in, how we can utilise that in AI systems. And there's a lot of questions going on within the customs community, including looking at how we can use open source data, internet data, as well as the structured data we have from declarations. We're also looking very closely at the importance of advanced parcel information. So there is a lot of work being done. But I think one of our opening speakers said in this time that the person saying, yes, this can be done, is often interrupted by the person doing it. So this is a changing area. We have about a dozen of our members who are implementing AI solutions already for processing and risk profiling, or both. and we have a lot more who are investigating. But these are major systems. They require major resources. You are looking at millions of dollars worth of investments for a AI that can deal with the scale of transactions, with the complexities, and with the data privacy and security that customs requires because of its privileged position. So this is an area where there is a lot of things coming through, but it's not an area where we have the answers as yet. We have applications in use, we have applications in trial, and once we see how these go in, we will be able to roll these out. But as I said, our biggest problem is quality of data and the cost to set this up, particularly when you're looking at our developing member countries. So I wish I could give you a magic bullet and say, yes, we can now use AI to screen all our parcels and we can give you great results. I can't do that. What I can say is we're working with AI to try and make better results. But the other thing we will need to do, of course, is work with the wider IP community and governments to make sure that we can source the data we need to be your front line of defence.
It sounds like there's definitely a lot of tools there, but there's also a lot of uncertainty about what's going to be the tool that works and what's going to be the tool that's just noise at the moment. So on that note, Felix, coming from Interpol's perspective and the law enforcement perspective on this, how is law enforcement evolving with these new AI tools and technologies, such as, let's say, dark web forensics or even cryptocurrency tracking? And I know there's this Stop Online Piracy, ISOP project. What is that, and what are some of the other examples that you could list of success stories or challenges when law enforcement's trying to use IP for tracking?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be here. So law enforcement evolving in AI, it's slow, as you can guess, and I think everybody here knows, just because of how law enforcement works, and it's behind laws and procedures and bureaucracy even sometimes. So it's slow. It's not as fast as we would like. It's not as fast as industry would like, I guess, as well. But we're seeing good things. We're seeing good things, and mostly in the collaboration area. So you mentioned Stop Online Piracy, the ISO project, which is Interpol Stop Online Piracy, is a project that is funded by the Korean government, the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, which started in 2021 and has recently been extended until 2029. Under this project, so Interpol provides support to its 196 member countries on cases, specific cases related to digital piracy. And under this project, we also have an advisory group, which is it's built of private and public bodies or agencies or institutions, which we meet a couple times a year just to talk about trends and threats and what the industry sees, what law enforcement sees, and how can we build on that to investigate a little bit better for the member countries, and how can we support member countries better, and in which regions that's happening. So some of the challenges we see as well are Gael mentioned, also Cristina and José Ignacio. It's many times the lack of resources, sometimes human resources, sometimes financial resources, sometimes just time. Gael mentioned how can they inspect all these packages coming through when it's just everything's brown. I guess that's your favorite color at customs, I guess. That's all you see every day. So AI, I think, needs to be increasingly adapted by law enforcement. However, that's going to take time. And that's where collaboration with private partners, with institutions, with international organizations, I think that's where we can make that happen a little bit faster, because some of them can use better tools now and not law enforcement sometimes. So I think that collaboration, that interaction between private and public sector is very important. They can give leads, they can help out law enforcement to to lead them a little bit the right way for their investigations, and then they can take over the investigation and then go from there. You also mentioned cryptocurrency, so we've seen a lot of cases, especially in the piracy side, that are now turning into cryptocurrency as a payment method, the criminal organizations. So AI has been helping law enforcement also through these partnerships with private sector. You have mentioned also, and you explained it very well with the picture. Because sometimes when you investigate cryptocurrency, you see a lot of noise around that information that you receive, and AI tools help to identify the important bits and how to make that in a readable format, let's say, for an investigator or law enforcement agency. And also scraping the web is also a magnific tool, because I mean, if you get behind a computer, you can only do such so many amount of searches and views. However, if you do AI, it takes seconds to scrape whatever you would do in just a day or a week. So yeah, I think it's going the right way. It's just not moving as fast as we wish. But yeah, with all these new ideas that we have heard, even from the welcoming remarks, we look forward to a faster future for law enforcement using these type of tools.
Well, you've all mentioned how AI tools are working in conjunction with other technologies, so I'm curious to go back to our Slido poll and see what you all in the audience think are the most important new technologies beyond AI. So we can see there are blockchain, number 1, also governance framework, number 2, quantum computing coming in, number 3. We see a whole big array of technologies there, which I think shows just how much is involved there. Thanks for putting those in. You can also put in your questions there. You'll see on the website, you can put in Q&A, put in those questions. I can put them to the panelists shortly. I'll get them here on my tablet. But Gael, so with that in mind, with all of these technologies that we're looking at here, how is the WCO helping its members prepare to adapt to these new evolutions, and particularly to AI technology? Some of your members are probably here in the audience. How can the WCO help when there's such a confusing array of technologies out there?
Well, now you're speaking to our core mandate. For those who don't know us, the WCO, the World Customs Organization, was set up basically to do 2 things. One was to manage the harmonized system through which goods are classified globally, but the other was to provide support and guidance for customs administration. So we are the voice for customs. And in that, of course, we work with a lot of organisations, and I'm sure we're going to be looking forward to some interesting conversations on IPR at the Interpol Partners Conference in July, and with many other organisations. But for technology, this is an area where we do a lot of work. And part of this is to do some basic research for our members, and the other is to ensure that our members know what each other is doing so we can learn from each other as we go. So in 2022, these are some key examples, it's just a few. We published a joint paper with the World Trade Organization on the role of advanced technologies in cross-border trade, a customs perspective. And that was looking at identifying advanced technologies for trade facilitation, and of course to support the customs objectives in relation to safety, security and fair revenue collection. And that followed on from a previous study we'd done on disruptive technologies with the WTO. In 2023, we started the Smart Customs Project, and one of its outcomes is the detailed report on the adoption of artificial intelligence and machine learning in customs, and I believe we have that in both a members only and a public version. And of course, with the need for a centralised platform for the ongoing exchange of best practices between customs administrations, we've started the WCO Smart Customs Community Portal, and that's been created to offer a dynamic and collaborative space tailored specifically to the need of customs professionals. And it has continuous interaction, peer-to-peer learning, and the sharing of innovative solutions. So our role is to basically bring our members together and ensure that they have everything they need to help develop tools in this area. Now, I just wanted to touch on one thing that isn't on my notes here, and that's in bringing these technologies together. So, for example, one of the things that was up there was X-ray technology, and one of the areas we've been working on a great deal is AI-assisted X-ray and non-intrusive inspection technologies. Again, these are the sort of things that can help us, not only with IPR, but with the wide range of security risks and restrictions and regulations that customs administers at the border. So for the WCO, our focus is to make sure that we not only do the background research, but that we provide a portal for members to share what's happening. And this is how we look to improve the use of technology within customs.
Jose Ignacio, obviously this is an area that is evolving very quickly. When you're looking at, what could be used as AI in terms of matches, both to copyright, both to fraudulently show them and to catch that fraudulent or copyrighted content, what are the latest trends that you're seeing for the use of AI, both for fighting IP infringement and for the use of AI by the infringers? And what safeguards do you have in place that ensure decisions that are taken on the basis of AI are balanced and not subject to some of these AI biases that we hear about?
Yeah, sure. So right now we don't see AI as a potential threat in terms of content protection. However, we have detected a couple of examples where there were people posting videos while at the same time our matches, and they were mimicking the real gameplay. Of course, we contact the online intermediary, and the video was removed immediately. But we see that the potential it's there. I mean, for the future, this is a trend that may keep on happening. And right now we are also analyzing other potential examples as the NBA. We saw that the NBA, they were using Disney characters during the live broadcasting of their games, and we know that maybe cyber criminals could use this technique also to, let's say, disrupt our content. We have seen also, for example, in the last Australian Open, that the players were also replaced by emojis, and we also saw a potential threat over there, and they were using them in real time. Okay. But of course, we at La Liga, we are implementing some, let's say, measures in order to avoid that. The first one, of course, it will be we are implementing contractual terms, so our content cannot be used to train any AI model. And of course, more than ever, we are forcing our broadcasters to implement the fingerprinting technology. For those that are not aware, fingerprinting technology is a technology that has been used in content protection measures for a long time, and it basically sets a code into the broadcast, and basically it's displayed during the broadcast of the matches. This code is also very helpful for content protection technology, as it helps us detect the source of the illegal stream. Okay, but now it's very, very important because it also helps us to confuse AI trainings. So this fingerprinting technology help us to actually trick any artificial intelligence training. So, for example, one particular content, the overall impression that the AI gets is totally different from the real image. So that particular technological measure is very, very important right now for La Liga, and this is what we are currently pushing with all our broadcasters.
Felix, We talked a little bit about the AI risks and the risk of AI bias that people talk about. What are some of the ethical risks for law enforcement, or maybe the unintended consequences of using AI for global IP enforcement, and how can those risks be mitigated?
Well, I think that's a more tricky one, but I would say it's, and I will go with what Ignacio was saying, is on the training of AI. I think behind AI, there's still a human hand behind it, so that it can go whichever way that hand wants it to go. So I think that bias that you mentioned as well is there, and that's where I think law enforcement needs to be careful on how they use AI in their investigations and their procedures. I mean, and how to mitigate, we'll go back to how law enforcement works, and is through their rules and guidelines and laws. So I think there's need to be a very careful thought on how you implement AI into law enforcement investigations. That being said, and I can see in the room and the speakers that have come before me and the ones that are in the agenda that a lot of thought is being put into this. So I think those complications will be solved in those collaborations, in those next steps that will take, be it from the EU Commission, be it from lawmakers, be it from prosecutors, and be it from investigators themselves when using technologies like this for investigations.
Cristina, on this same subject, how would you say that transparency and fairness can be ensured in these automated decisions about potential infringements flagged by AI-driven systems, especially when we are always hearing stories about AI getting it wrong?
Yes, I think it's a very interesting question, and actually it really links to what my colleague speakers have just mentioned. So we do care, of course, about transparency and about fairness, and no matter how much we can automate, we need to ensure that this is actually happening. So we do automate on researching and finding infringements, but there is, apart from very specific cases, there is always human in the loop validation for what we do. So we use AI as an enhancement for our enforcement, detection and enforcement activities, and it allows us to do it, as I said, in an efficient way at a very large scale. But we do not let AI to be the final decision maker. And this is to prevent bias, of course, which is quite an important topic in this context. But also, and it was very interesting, what you said on what La Liga is doing about tricking AI, and this is something that definitely we do not want to happen in our case, and we always have to we always want to have someone in the validation process. In terms of transparency, we also provide full visibility to brands that we assist in the sense that it's always explainable and auditable what our AI detects. If our AI says this is a listing, for example, to be enforced, then it's clear for what reasons it should be enforced. So the AI says this is a potential counterfeit product, and then there is a second step, which is the validation from a human being, someone with human expertise that can say, yes, I agree with the AI, basically. Let's put it this in simple terms. So yes, we do work to have fairness in all our decisions, but also compliance, of course, with guidelines from brands that have their own brand guides and guidelines we need to comply with, but most of all laws and regulations that we luckily have.
Well, let's take some of the questions that have come in via Slido. Again, type in your questions on Slido. I'll get them here. First question I will put to Jose Ignacio, because I think you've intrigued many people with this idea of the smileys fighting the football match. You've certainly intrigued me. So this question is from an anonymous questioner. Do you already use Google scanning and delisting technologies to remove pirated content?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are members of the TCRP program from Google, and we use it to delist infringing content from the search results during the lifetime of our broadcast. So of course we use it.
Okay, good to know. Cristina, next question is for you, another anonymous questioner. Do you see the use of data poisoning tools to confuse and corrupt AI scraping as a useful defense and also a viable tool for IP enforcement? So can these poisoning tools, I've not heard of these before actually, can they kind of mess up the AI detection?
They may. I mean, I think this is something that is, it's emerging technologies, new technologies, and it's definitely something that can come into play. We discussed before, as mentioned, that there are tricks on the AI, and we also know that one of the main concerns also about AI is bias. So it's not that what AI detects, even if it's trained to with the best models in the best way, is 100% the truth, if you know what I mean. So definitely there may be ways to work around it, and there may be tools that can prevent inefficient or effective enforcement, but can also be tools that helps enforcement professionals to work against infringers using AI. So I think it can be double-faced, but definitely is a really interesting topic that is worth further discussions.
Does anyone else want to come in on this data poisoning issue? Yeah, Gael?
Yeah, exactly as you say, it's a double-edged sword. It can be used to protect your images and your copyright from being scraped and used by AI-generated mass sales, but it also can disrupt the usefulness of the instruments that you use to scrape the web looking for AI infringements. So it has effects both ways, and I think this is something we need to look at very carefully.
Next question is for Felix. This question is from Agis Charalambos from Cyprus. Are we ready, I assume CY was Cyprus, apologies if that wasn't. Are we ready to trust results from AI agents and AI in general? So from a law enforcement perspective, can we right now trust those results?
Well, and I think it's mentioned before, we can trust them until a certain point, but then there needs to be somebody who makes a decision and say, yes, this is what I need in my investigation, this is what I need in my prosecution, or this is not what I need, or this is not 100% right. So yeah, we can trust until a certain point, but there always has to be a validation after that in the investigations.
Okay, let me check if we have any live questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question that they would like to stand up and use a microphone, the old-fashioned way, to ask? Raise your hand high because it's a little hard to see out there. No? Okay, I'm going to go back to an online question then. Gail, I'll put this question to you. Anonymous questioner asks, how are the AI instruments used in terms of ensuring reliability, given the fact that AI sometimes has the tendency to hallucinate? So again, we were talking before about AI bias. There's this other well-known phenomenon where the AI hallucinates and says crazy things that we know the AI shouldn't think, but somehow does.
Exactly, and this goes back to the previous question as well. I mean, it's always important to remember that we call it artificial intelligence, but it's not actually a mind. It's not an entity that has experience of the real world. And to a degree, it's like any other digital tool. You have to use it as a tool, And if you stop using human common sense and human experience, you will end up with problems. It's like relying on your sat-nav and turning off your brain. You'll probably drive into the river at some stage in your life. So there is always the need to have human validation at certain points. But what it does do and what it can do is process very, very large amounts of data very, very quickly and see patterns that are lost in so much data that it would be almost impossible or impossible for humans to find them. So yes, AI is problematic in terms of hallucinations, it's problematic in terms of bias, it's problematic in that it's only as good as the data it's trained in. The old IT saying, garbage in, garbage out. So you do need quality training, you do need quality data for it to work. But taking all that into consideration, it's still a valuable tool, and it can still be used in law enforcement and other areas, provided it's used sensibly and with those limitations respected. And also, I think one of the areas where we do need to work on is research into making it less black box, so that humans can interrogate more the reasoning behind decisions, but this is part of the ongoing research for AI.
Okay. I have another question for you, Gael. This one specifically for you from Carol Aubert. How can we enhance risk analysis if data provided by shipping companies or postal mail are insufficient or unreadable? How can we force transport companies to deliver better data, better details?
Thank you, Carol. You have touched upon one of the areas where we are working exceptionally hard, because as I said, our largest challenge for using AI to improve the processing and risk detection is the quality of the data. And we work with the UPU, and we work with most of the major providers of courier services to work upon these issues. And we have the WCO data model, which helps companies to know what sort of data they need to use that can be used globally by customs administrations. But this is an ongoing problem, and I can't tell you that we have a perfect solution to that yet. And this is the same as the problems faced by most of us in law enforcement, as how do we get consistency globally, particularly in our current environment, with consistent regulations on and requirements for operators who operate across borders. So it's a very good question. We have worked on it and made major improvements over the last decades, but it's an ongoing challenge.
So a question has come in here. It says, earlier a speaker said there are 5 billion parcels entering the EU annually. I'm not sure does anyone remember saying that specifically?
It was one of the opening speakers.
It was one of the keynote speakers they mean. Okay, well, so I'll put this to whoever wants to answer it. Assuming that AI becomes more effective, it means that we'll face millions of seized goods that are potentially dangerous. Is there any discussion on what to do with them? Maybe this is another one for Gael.
Okay. Actually, we're already looking at this in light of another issue, because one of the aspects that we are looking at in the WCO is green customs, how customs can be more sustainable. So we've recently been doing some work on what do we do with seized goods to ensure that we can sustainably dispose of those goods in ways that don't risk human health and don't risk the environment. And again, very, very good question. I wish there was a good answer, but what we're looking at is creating tools for our members to give a range of options for the disposal of such goods. Hopefully, if we succeed in making enough seizures, we'll reduce the financial incentives for this trade. But of course, that's always our desire rather than our objective reality at the moment.
I'll do one more question from the audience here. The question is for Cristina. So the question is, it's from Eleni. Will automated enforcement through AI tools stifle fair use of copyrighted materials? Do you design AI enforcement tools so they can distinguish between fair use and infringement before a takedown?
This is a very good question, and actually this is, if you ask me what I would like to fix tomorrow about AI, this would probably be my answer. So to enhance models so that they can get more nuanced cases at the moment is something that is very difficult because, as we all said, and Gael said it, just earlier. The decision, we cannot let decisions to the AI fully. These are cases like fair use, like, for example, authorized collaboration between brands, or it can be very, very nuanced and specific cases where the AI just detect something that is potentially a risk, but it cannot really say, actually, this is copyright fair use or, freedom of speech, for example. It's something that at the moment is not there. So if I could fix something tomorrow about AI, or at least what we use, it would be that. To be able to get into the more nuanced cases. And I think there is room definitely for improvement, and let's see what's going to happen and how. But at the moment is mostly why we really need a human validation for specific enforcement actions.
Well, that's all the time we have for this first panel, but I want to thank the panelists for some really interesting thoughts about this very fast-moving sector. I think what we've established here is that there are a lot of different ways AI can be used, both for good and for ill, and everyone's still trying to grapple with the possibilities here. I think both of the enforcers and the infringers, so it's going to be a constant, I think, race between those two to see who can exploit AI more. How about a round of applause for our excellent panelists?